For 3 centuries, gentlemen would calmly agree on a time, a place, and a weapon, and then try to kill each other over a single rude word. And it was all considered perfectly good manners. It was called the duel, a formal, private fight to settle a matter of honor between two gentlemen, fought by rules that everyone agreed on in advance. And the things men fought over were staggeringly small. An insult, a look, a spilled drink, a disputed card, a lady's name, a stepped-on foot. To modern eyes, it looks like madness. But for a gentleman, to be called a liar or a coward and do nothing was a fate considered worse than death itself. Most of these quarrels were born at night, over cards, over wine, over a careless word in a hot room, and then they were settled, stone-cold sober, at dawn. So an entire etiquette grew up around it. In 1777, Irish gentlemen even wrote it all down, the Code Duello, a rulebook for how to properly kill your friend. The duel was a ghost of something older, the medieval trial by combat, in which men believed God would grant victory to whoever was in the right. The gods faded, the fighting stayed. It began with the challenge. Feeling insulted, a man would demand satisfaction, often with a formal note, the throw of a glove, or a slap across the face. Then each man appointed his seconds, trusted friends who arranged every detail, and whose first duty, in theory, was to try to make peace. If peace failed, the seconds settled the terms, the place, the hour, the weapon, the distance. A quiet field at dawn was the classic stage. The seconds were not always safe either. Now and then they quarreled over the terms themselves, and a fight between two men would erupt into a fight between 4 or 6. The weapons were usually swords or, later, a matched pair of pistols, beautiful, expensive, and built for one purpose only. A surgeon often waited at the edge of the field, his instruments ready to probe for the ball. His very presence was a grim admission of what everyone expected to happen. And here was the strange mercy of it. Early dueling pistols were smoothbore and wildly inaccurate. At 20 paces, both men often missed entirely. Sometimes that was the whole point. 2 shots fired, both missed, honor satisfied, and the men could shake hands and go to breakfast, reputations intact. But the code was a trap of its own. Once you took your place on the field, to apologize was to look like a coward, so men who wanted no fight went through with it anyway. The rules were absurdly precise. They dictated who could fire first, how many shots, what counted as an apology, and exactly when honor was satisfied. And the rules were strangely specific about words. To call a man a liar was the gravest insult of all, one the code said no apology could ever wipe clean. Only the field could. First blood might end it, or the first shot, or it might drag on, reload after reload, until one man could no longer stand, depending on how grave the insult was ruled to be. A man could also delope, deliberately fire his shot into the air, to spare his opponent and end it with honor, but do it clumsily, and it insulted the other man worse than any bullet. And the men who died were often the best of their generation, brilliant, young, and thrown away over a triviality. In 1804, a sitting vice president of the United States, Aaron Burr, shot and killed Alexander Hamilton, a founding father, on a New Jersey ledge, over years of political insults. Russia's greatest poet, Alexander Pushkin, died at 37 in a duel over rumors about his wife. Literature lost a giant to a pistol at 10 paces. Even Abraham Lincoln was once challenged, and, given the choice of weapon, picked cavalry broadswords to use his long arms. The fight was called off at the very last moment. Nor was it only for young hotheads. In 1829, the Duke of Wellington, the hero of Waterloo, and Britain's sitting prime minister, fought a duel. Both men, wisely, chose to miss. Some duels crossed into pure farce. In 1808, 2 Frenchmen are said to have fought over a woman by rising above Paris in hot air balloons and firing blunderbusses at each other's balloons. One balloon was hit, collapsed, and both men aboard fell to their deaths. A quarrel over a dancer settled 1,000 feet in the air. Men dueled over a dog, over a bar of music, over whose turn it was. The smaller the cause, the more the code seemed to demand blood. In the American South, gentlemen dueled so readily that in New Orleans a grove of oak trees became a famous killing ground, its branches shading quarrel after quarrel. The frontier had its own brutal version. The huge, heavy Bowie knife won its fame in a chaotic 1827 sandbar duel that collapsed into an all-out brawl. In Germany, students fought ritual sword duels not to kill, but for the scars themselves, a slashed cheek worn with pride for life, a badge that said, "I stood, and I did not flinch." Andrew Jackson, a future U.S. president, fought so many duels that he was said to carry bullets lodged in his body for the rest of his life. In one, he let his opponent fire first, took the ball in the chest near his heart, then calmly, deliberately, shot the man dead. The code allowed it. Behind the glamour, the toll was horrifying. Over the centuries, tens of thousands of men were killed or maimed by this polite ritual. And it was, almost everywhere, illegal. Kings banned it, the church condemned it, courts outlawed it, and still the gentlemen dueled. Because the law was one thing, and honor was another. A man could be acquitted by a judge and still be ruined in every drawing room if he had refused to fight. That was the real tyranny of it, not the pistols, but the crowd. Honor was not a private feeling. It was a verdict passed by everyone watching. Women were pulled into it too, for a duel was often fought over a lady's reputation, defending an honor that was hers, in a fight she never chose and could not stop. Occasionally, women dueled each other. One famous petticoat duel is even said to have been fought topless to keep cloth from being driven into a wound and causing infection. There were codes within the code: how to stand, how to bow, how to hold your fire, how to fall. A man was judged not just on whether he won, but on how gracefully he risked dying. To flinch, to fire early, to aim too eagerly, these were disgraces. You were meant to face death with an elegant, almost bored, composure. And so the most dangerous words a gentleman could hear were quiet ones: "I demand satisfaction." From there, the machinery of the code took over. What finally killed the duel was not a single law. It was a slow change in how people saw it. As the middle class rose, the aristocratic obsession with honor began to look less noble and more ridiculous, a deadly game for idle men. Newspapers mocked it. Writers satirized it. Slowly, killing a man over a rude remark stopped looking brave and started looking stupid. And the law was, at last, enforced. Survivors of fatal duels began to be tried, convicted, and punished as the killers they were. By the late 1800s, the duel was dying across Europe and America, not disproven by an argument, but abandoned as an absurdity. The pistols went into cabinets. The fields went quiet, and a ritual that had killed for 300 years simply faded into history. We look back now and shake our heads that men once died, by appointment, over a word or a glance. Even Mark Twain was once nearly dragged into a duel, and joked afterward that he would happily have fought, but only if he were allowed to choose the weapon, a fire hose. But the impulse underneath never fully left us. The fear of looking weak, the terror of the crowd's verdict, the pull to answer an insult at any cost. The duel is gone. What it fed on, pride, and the dread of losing face, is still very much alive. We have simply, at last, agreed to stop shooting over it.